Hi, today we're going to learn about the area and circumference of a circle. This is going to be a short video explaining everything you need to know about circles. Let's identify the parts of a circle. So we have chord, diameter, radius, and circumference. In this picture are all the things that you are going to need to find the area and circumference of a circle. So a diameter goes from one side of the circle through the center of the circle to the other side of the circle. It is a straight line. There are infinitely many diameters. A radius is exactly half of the diameter. The radius goes from the center of the circle to the outside to the point on the outside of the circle. There are infinitely many radiuses as well. We are not going to be talking about chords today, but they're an important part of a circle. I said all of these things you were going to need to find the area and circumference, but we're missing one very important thing. Pi! No, silly, not that kind of pi. This kind of pi. Yes, indeed, I spelled that right. Pi. Pi is equal to 3.14159265385897932384626. Okay, I'm not going to read all of that. It goes forever. And I was not kidding when pi goes forever and ever 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 and ever. Oh, I'm getting winded from just saying it. But indeed, it does go forever and ever. It never stops. Yeah, pi is pretty cool, right? Did you know that Pi Day is March 14th, which is also Albert Einstein's birthday? Cool, right? But in a math problem, we don't want to have to write down all of pi, right? We'd be there for decades, millenniums, years. So there's a symbol. The pi symbol. That's the pi symbol. Pretty awesome. I'm going to let you in another secret. Oftentimes, pi is rounded to 3.14. And guess what? When you don't use a calculator to find the circumference and area of a circle, you oftentimes use 3.14. I know, so sad. Well, you can memorize the digits of pi for fun because I have included a link in the description box for all the digits of pi. Your friends will think that's pretty cool, right? But remember, pi goes forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. I think if I'm remembering right, the largest amount of pi digits memorized was like 100,000. And there's like over a billion because it goes on forever. So you could keep memorizing pi forever. Well, now you're probably wondering, what do we even use pi for in a circle? The formulas, ready? Area of a circle is A equals pi r squared. Psst, that's my favorite formula ever. And circumference, C equals pi d. So, what do they mean? Let's look at circumference first. The circumference formula is C equals pi d. So the capital C is equal to circumference. We just learned this one. Pi is pi, 3.14159, and then it goes on forever, And then d is the diameter. Where is the diameter of the circle, you ask? Remember this picture? Yeah. Well, the diameter is a line from one side of the circle to the other side of the circle that goes through the center of the circle. Remember that there are infinite radii, and infinite diameters. So I have found these two wonderful gifts for you to look about how there's infinite radii, and infinite diameters. So I think that's pretty fun. Alright, here's a good way to remember this formula, because it sounds pretty tricky, right? Cherry pies are delicious. So we have the C, circumference, C is equal to pi d. Cherry pies are delicious. Wow, isn't that a fun way to remember things? So let's go back to area. So what do they mean? Let's look at area finally. Area is equal to pi r squared. Again, this is my favorite formula. I love circle formulas. The capital A is equal to area. We just learned this one again. Pi is pi 3.14159, and r is equal to the radius. Where is the radius of the circle, you ask? Remember this picture? Yeah, well, the radius is the line from the center of the circle to the outside of the circle. If the diameter is the whole line from one side of the circle to the other, the radius is half that line. So every time, the radius is always half of the diameter. If you have the radius, you can find the diameter. If you have the diameter, you can find the radius. Every time. Since we weren't done analyzing the area formula, A equals area, pi is pi, r is radius. But then, what is the little 2 above the r? Well, that's an exponent. That explains what power, how many times you multiply r by itself. So if that didn't make sense, you multiply r by itself because then you have the 2 r's. Look, do you see the r times r? That's r to the second power. R squared. It just means the same thing. Every time you do area, the formula is the same. A equals pi r squared. And a good way to remember this formula is apple, A, pi's pi, r, 2, the exponent 2. Do you see the formula? If you put them together, cherry pies are delicious. Apple pies are too. Now this helpful way to remember it makes sense, right? Let's solve a few problems together. For these problems, let's find the circumference. We can use the rounded 3.14. So we know the formula is C equals pi d. The radius of this circle is 4. And we know that the radius is half the diameter. So we have to double 4. So the diameter is 8. Diameter is 8. And so since we're finding the circumference, C equals pi d. Most times you should write out the formula to remind yourself what you're doing. Circumference is equal to 3.14 times 8. So C, the circumference, is equal to 25.12. Next problem. So they gave us the diameter in this one. So the diameter is equal to 12. Circumference is equal to pi d. C is equal to 3.14 times 12. C is equal to 37.68. Let's solve a few more. Let's find the area this time. We can use the rounded 3.14 again. R is equal to 4. That's our radius, right? So we have A, area, is equal to pi r squared. A is equal to 3.14 times 4 times 4. Because 4 squared is 4 times 4. A is equal to 3.14 times 16 because 4 times 4 is equal to 16. A is equal to 50.24. I didn't give you guys a unit, but you would use the unit when you have your answer. In this case, you would just say 50.24 units because I didn't give you a unit. But remember to always use your units. Alright, so let's move on to the next problem. So they gave us the diameter is equal to 12. R is equal to 6 because the radius is exactly half of the diameter. A is equal to pi r squared. A is equal to 3.14 times 6 times 6 because 6 squared is equal to 6 times 6. A is equal to 3.14 times 36. Area is equal to 113.04 units. You can do this, I promise. Thank you